Well, we begin with a basic setup now. After this, I will show you how to do the counter, and then I show you how to make achievements triggered. But we start at the beginning, of course. We have invisible group ID 1 and hide, and we have duo, UFO, and 2-player mode enabled. Here we are adding 2 blocks, and where you can see the player sliding, we will add a trigger orb. Here and here. The blocks and the trigger orbs gets the group ID 2, and the trigger orbs getting the group ID 3. Above, we are placing the spawn triggers over the toggle trigger and between the move trigger, and the spawn trigger getting the next 3 group IDs. In this case 4, in this case 5. Yeah. The move trigger will move group ID 2 or from the player X on a duration you like. And the toggle trigger will toggle group 3. So yeah, the trigger orbs in this case. Yeah, and in this spawn trigger you also set up how much time you want to give the player to enter the code. Please remind, you need 1 or 2 seconds after this, after the duration to place all triggers for make the achievements tracking. That means after that you need space to set up all triggers which should triggering your achievements. So I would give 10 seconds. I would give a player 10 seconds. And now we select all triggers and make them spawn triggered. Also, don't forget to add the group IDs to these triggers here. Otherwise, it will not work. That is how it should look now. Yeah. At the end, I would add here the next 3 group IDs. In this case 6. Activate group multi-activate, don't forget it. And here at 7. And pay and enable boxes as well. Well, now we are beginning with placing the counter texts here, which you can find in the Triggered tab. Add separate item ID for each item counter. Now we are changing to editor layer 1 and adding collision block. Also, each block IDs needs to be separate. Add an additional collision block right of all. If you have 6, add a 7th collision block. And also very important, add here also a collision block, but enable the checkbox. Now we are scaling this down and select all and move them to the left with the next 3 group ID. Next 3 group ID was 8. So we are entering 8 here. Don't forget to add group ID 2 and 3 here. Now we are making the block moving down. I mean this block here. So we are adding the next free group ID and set up a move trigger. It needs to move 2 grids down. And now we are adding a spawn trigger here and enter here the next free group ID, make it spawn triggered and multi-triggered. Also add the group of a spawn trigger to the spawn trigger itself. Now we make move the group ID, the block 9 here. And add here group ID 10 and of this trigger orb group ID 7. Well, now you have seen that this block is moving to right, but you can do it limitless, and now I show you how to fix it. It's actually pretty easy. We are placing a collision trigger here and setting it up. So when collision block with block ID 9 will touch collision block with a block ID 8, it will activate group ID 11. So yeah, if this collision block touches 8, it will activate group ID 11. Now we are setting up what 11 should do. 11 should toggle something. If it moves back, I don't want that the collision blocks can be touched or used in this time. So I will simply add a new group ID to them. So these collision blocks, which are important for our counter, this, only this, the first 6, which are behind the item counter textures, they get toggled. Enter here 12 and make it spawn triggered and multi-triggered. Yeah, don't forget enabling these both checkboxes. And we have to move this. Yeah, it has 9, so we have to move 9. Let's count how many grids that are. 10, 12. Move 12 grids to left. Also spawn triggered and multi-triggered. And after a short time should be enabled again. If you are on mobile, you can simply use 0.01 to enter a number which has 2 digits after your point and make it spawn triggered and multi-triggered as well. So after this delay, it should activate this group again. At 11. Well, let's see how it works. Well, now we are beginning with a counter. For this, we are placing a collision block here. If 9 touches collision block 2, it should activate the next free group ID, it's 14. If a block is not touching collision block 2 anymore, it should activate group ID 15. And that we are doing now for each block. Another example, if 9 touches 3, it should activate 16. If 9 doesn't touch 3 anymore, it activates 17. Yeah, now we have, for each collision block, we have a trigger which activates a group when 9 touches a collision block and when 9 doesn't touch the collision block anymore. So now we need to set up pickup triggers with orange triggers here. And the next three is 1. And make it spawn triggered and multi-triggered. And make it count 1. Yeah, now copy paste, place 1 grid below, and then just enter the next item ID. Yeah, that's it. Now we are giving a group ID to each item trigger. The next three was 26. The next step is making here toggle triggers which are activated, spawn triggered and multi-triggered as well. And we look here, this was 26, so 26 activate and unactivate 26. Now simply copy paste and change the group IDs. The next step is adding the group IDs which are left of the toggle triggers to the toggle trigger. Here you enter 14, here you enter 15, and so on. Yeah, now you're asking, what are you doing right now? Or what are we doing right now? What we have simply done is now that if this collision blocks touch the collision block 2, 26, that means this trigger gets activated. If it doesn't touch 2 anymore and touches 3, this trigger gets unactivated and this gets activated, and so on. And this is for all triggers. We simply copy paste now all the toggles and make it not spawn triggered and remove all group IDs. So you see the pickup triggers disappeared, and that we are moving under the ground right at the beginning. And here we can do a spawn trigger with a really short delay. Activates the next free group ID 32. Spawn triggered and multi-triggered. And make it 32 and 6. Yeah, add group ID 6 because this was 6 here. That means every time 6 gets activated, 33 gets triggered or activated. And every time 32 gets activated, it will count up one of these pickup IDs. Let's see how it works. Okay, my bad, just add 6. Here we see how it works. Once without follow player. Yeah, we as we can see, we go here over 10. Actually, we just want to have one digit numbers. That can be easily prevented by using 6 count triggers and 6 pickup triggers. So let's add here. If we have item, if item ID 1 have target count 10, it activates, what was the next 3? 33. Okay. We're gonna activate 33. Yeah, and of that you need 6 triggers. 2, 34, and so on. Yeah, now you take a pickup trigger, make it spawn triggered and multi-triggered, and set up that, item ID 1 is -10, and copy paste and just change the item ID 1 forward. Yeah, now at the end, just add the group ID to the triggers. That's it, I guess, so we can test it out.
I got you.
After you have set up a master game gameplay, we can begin with the achievements triggering, and we begin here with easy stuff. Again, the first work is to place 6 item counter textures with the next 3 item ID. Now we are selecting all item counter taxes and giving the next free group ID is 83. And placing here another move trigger, which makes the taxes move with our player over time. Now we are placing collision blocks in the room in which we want to show the player the code. With the next free collision block ID, it's 10 in my case. And don't forget to add here the group ID. And as you remind at the beginning of the tutorial, I have not used collision block 1 because it's used now for the player. Now I show you how to make the code moving down. If the collision block with a block ID 1 touches collision block with a ID 10, it should activate the next a group ID. In this case I'm choosing 85 and it should activate it. And here we simply copy paste and make trigger on except. That means that if 1 doesn't touch 10 anymore. Yeah, now we need movements for 83. You can choose an easing which you want. If it gets touched by the player, it should move down and show up. If the player doesn't touch it anymore, it should move back up. Yeah, don't forget to add the group IDs of the collision blocks and don't forget the name of the spawn trigger checkbox and multi-trigger. Yeah, this was needed to be the first setup for the achievement triggering. Okay, now we are starting with the dead wall. The dead wall is working like following, we are placing a wall like here, and the dead wall will always be toggled if you have entered a correct code, and the wall stays on its place if you have entered a wrong code. Yeah, this is the wall. It gets the next free group ID 86. Yeah, now we are setting up the first code, which starts a new game. Item ID 1 activates group ID 87 to 88 and so on. You can simply copy paste this. Here you're picking the next free item ID is 14. Here you are entering 1. And make it spawn triggered. If your item ID 1 this has entered 0, then it activates the group 87, and 87 gets activated and activates this pickup trigger. And for making it fully work and make it strictly working with the correct code, you add for each the same pickup trigger. And for each correct number you have entered, you're giving out like 1 point, and only if you have 6 points, then it will activate this roll. But I can show you this a bit later. But for now, we are adding here group IDs from the instant count trigger left of the pickup trigger. And for showing it to you, here you see the item ID. Here you see I just entered 0000000 and it turns to 6. If item ID 14 has target count 6, then it activates group 93. And 93 will toggle or that one which had the group ID 86. So let's add 93 here. So we have here 6 times 0. Now it comes to 6 and with that one toggles. An example, if you're entering a wrong code like 000100, then it just can count up 5 and the wall stays. Because it counts and yeah, the fourth digit wasn't equal like 0, so it only gives 5 points. If you have below 6 points, it doesn't toggle to that wall. Yeah, now we're beginning with this for what you probably waited for all the time, that you can enter the code and achieve what you want, but I don't want to scare you. It maybe will be a bit more complicated than this thing here we've set up before. Yeah, just a small information beside, which will be important for the achievement setup. This movement is actually just for the circle, and technically this player here is just art and decoration, which is simply following this circle. Means this is 39 and this is 40, and surprise, 39 follows 40 all the time. Yeah, it's moving and this is following. This will be very important for later. Yeah, now we're inventing an achievement. We're entering here the next 3 collision block ID 18 and simply copy paste the wall, and this is like a key and this is a door, and if you pick up the key it should open a door, and we want maybe that it is an achievement which should be tracked. So we simply use then here collision block, place it here. You remember our player was block ID 1, activate the next group, it is 94, and now just place 2 toggle triggers, and here we make a pickup trigger. Make sure that these triggers are spawn triggered, and in the spawn trigger you add a small delay, and here you add also the next group ID. So now we have here the toggle trigger which toggles our door. Let's give group IDs to the key and the door for that. The key gets 96 and the door gets 97. So the key should be technically toggled a bit after. This is why we have set up here delay. And now we set up a pickup trigger, and you can invent your own code. This is like the achievement we have now set it up, which is generating a new code as well. And then you just adding the group IDs. Yeah, as you can see here, this is a code we have just set it up. We simply have made like a pickup that everything pick up a few points, as we have set up 133,713, and this we will now set up technically. Now we have it just that the player can see it, but we now must set up the achievement that the game can track that we have opened the door and pick it up the key and make the player start from another position. Yeah, that it maybe start from this position here. It works similar like the default code which we have set up already. You remember that we have 6 times 0 set up, and we just make now a similar setup right here. So we simply copy paste and just enter as before the next free group ID. Yeah, if you are done with it, place all pickup triggers again and pick the next free item ID for it 15 and copy paste it also. And now you can just see the group IDs left of it. You can simply add it to the pickup triggers. Yeah, now we have set up that you get 1 point again, as before, for each correct number. Now we just set up the numbers here in the target count. The first ticket, also known as item ID 8, what we have set up here, the pickup trigger was 1, the second was 3, the third ticket was 3, the fourth ticket was 7, the fifth was 1, and this was 3 as well. Yeah, and now we can play test. Now we should get 6 points. Here you see we have entered all correct tickets again. So now we can just make it like here below. Place an instant count trigger with the next free group ID, it is 105, and with our item ID here 15. Also 6 and also activate group. Yeah, we need 2 toggle triggers. We need a spawn trigger here, a spawn trigger here, and a spawn trigger here. And a toggle trigger. So at first, the dead wall was, as we remind, 86. We toggle it by entering the correct code. This gets the next free group ID. And make a small delay of minimum 0.1 seconds. And here we have to select all damage blocks and all walls and something else and give it an additional group ID that we can activate it after everything but toggle it while everything is setting up. Yeah, now we can simply add achievement. We do it with a spawn trigger. With spawn trigger 94. Yeah, now we have to move this game down manually. For this I look up how's the down movement set, add a move trigger here and make it moving in 0 seconds. 59, 110 down. Spawn triggers. And for make a player move to a position wizard, select this and give it the next group ID 109. 109 is the next. Now just set up that 40 should move to 109. Important, this group ID should also be added to one object, and this should also just be added to one group ID. If you have added the group IDs to two or more objects, it will not work. Yeah, this is why I have told you before, one circle is moving and the rest is just following and using this follow trigger. You can make a spawn trigger, add its own group ID to the spawn trigger, and add to the achievement spawn triggers group ID 110. Yeah, this is for future setup, because I guess your master game will not last just 1 minute, it will last 15 minutes. So you can simply reuse it, and you don't need to have a lot of spawn triggers and use it again and again. And it will also optimize the game. So have it, and the next step we will use it. So add here 105, add here 111, add here 106, add here 107. Let's test it out. The door is toggled, keys toggled, we moved to the position. Yeah, that's all. Yeah, now we are setting the second achievement here, and it's also the last achievement. After that, I simply tell you how to fix probably bug. But at first, we are needing another achievement or a new key that the player starts from this room. Yeah, let's just add the other trigger. It's the player touches 19, it activates the next group ID 113. Yeah, let's make it at 111551. Yeah, and let's be a bit more funny. And here we also just add the next group ID is 114. And then we toggle the key as well, which was 112. So yeah, add the correct group IDs right now. 113 and 114. Our last code was 133713. That is our code. And then, yeah, when you see something, the codes are okay, but yeah, here we have 2 digits and here we have a number below 0. I confess I did it intentional to show you what can happen. For this we need, of course, count triggers which are protecting from this. We make the same as here. Make it like below, just make it for item ID 8, item ID 9, and here also 8, 9. You have to set up, and of course the next few group IDs. And add it to the pickup triggers as we now did before. Yeah, now it will prevent that our numbers go over 10 in the in-game code, and that one here. If you want to subtract, I'm suggesting you doing the same with under 0. The only thing is, in the pickup trigger you have to set up that it adds 10 always. I will make it now in Speedbuild. Yeah, as you can see, we fixed it. Yeah, now we are doing the same as here. Yeah, this is, by the way, our code. So yeah, let's start then with doing this here again. Just copy paste it. This time I will do it in Speedbuild. Yeah, and after having everything set, just copy paste this here and make the same as before, that you just pick the next 3 item ID and copy paste it. Add the group IDs here. Now you can add here again an instant count trigger, here the spawn trigger as we have it here. You can copy paste the toggle triggers, which are toggling the obstacles and the wall, and just set up those spawn triggers right now as we have it below here. This is approximately how it looks then, and make sure everything is spawn triggered. Of course, what we have here before use 110 we can use simply again. As I said, imagine here are a lot of achievements. You can simply add the spawn trigger and it will make the same. Yeah, we need a spawn trigger for 113. Yeah, here you're adding the next 3 group ID again. Activate group if we have 6 digits correct of item ID 16, and add here just for next 3 group IDs. Yeah, after doing so, you can simply take it. Yeah, we move manually. In this case, that are 2 room. We move a player to 10 again to this here and give it also and only this group ID 138. And we make it move in again to a target. Yeah, what we forgot, yeah, setting the delay of 0.1 seconds, and now simply add all the group IDs. And make only these both like a spawn trigger here. This and this, 134. We add the same group ID, we make a spawn trigger and multi-trigger so we can use it again. And it will trigger this time these both spawn triggers. We enter a code to the instant count triggered when it works. First ticket was 2, this was 4, this was 4, this was 2, this was 2, and this was 9. Now let's see how it works. Okay, yeah, this was all about the setup right now. I will just tell you now some bugs and how to prevent them, and then this tutorial is over. Yeah, this is now the last section of the video, and this is also now a bit what happens if start. I now tell you what are the main changes. I have added here an achievement, a key or whatever as well, to this room. Yes, something new. Here's the new key with block ID 20. One touch of 20. Yeah. It adds to pick up 11. This is the fourth digit of our code. This one. To this we are adding 9. So here we have 5, here we have 7, and here we have 9. Yeah. Now if you calculate it a bit, doing a bit of maths, 7 plus 5 plus 9 is 20. Oops. No, 21. Yeah, if we calculate it, we have 21, a number about 20. So this is a number we will get from, and yeah, and the red numbers are the codes. 133713, you remember what we have set up, and this is now the new code, with only this digit changed. Remember this code? Yeah, now we have it here, as we can see, and now we pick up this ID. You see, it's still 1. Yeah, now we are entering the code 244129, and let's see what happens. Now we have this number which is 2 digits long. In this case it is not subtracting because in game it's like it's count up a number, and if it go over 10 and it only goes over 10, then it's immediately subtracting back to the 1 digit number. This is why it is always in game the 1 digit number. The reason why it is at the beginning after entering the code 2 digit number. It adds all points at the same moment, and it goes over 20 of course, right? And then it only subtracts 10 once. There is one very good solution which is working always. We are placing instant count triggers before the beginning of the game. Yeah, here we are needing 6 instant count triggers and adding item ID 8 if it has a larger count than 9. And that means 10 and above, then it will activate group. Yeah, now just add item ID and the next 3 group ID and copy paste. Yeah, and as before, take a pickup trigger. It doesn't need to be multi-triggered, it will only work once anyways, and make a subtract 10 of item ID 8. Yeah, and then you can simply add the group IDs. This is actually everything how to prevent this bug, and we can actually test it out. And here we go, the numbers are now 1 digit. Of course you can place another instant count trigger right before and checking whether it's over 20. The other bug I wanted to show you, it's the last thing I want to show you. What I mean with the circle and the player. Yeah, as you can see, the circle was at a position, but the kitty was, yeah, it stayed here. It was like this, you know. Of course you can do it like this, but if you want to use the circle for prevent bugs or want to make more uses of it, let the follow trigger before all backup calls triggers. Yeah, this is actually everything. Thanks for watching the tutorial, thanks for spending your time. If you want, leave a like and subscribe. You can suggest the video to other minigame creators if you know some and they want to have coding. It would be really nice. If you need help, leave a comment or join my Discord server. The invite is in the description of this video, where you can ask me. See ya, and let me know if I should do more tutorials, and if yes, you can suggest as well, and if I'm comfortable with the topic, I can make a tutorial of it as well.
I wish that you were here to give me a